Hey man, it's your boy Alex, and welcome back to another bang. Today, we're talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, and more specifically, the Shibuya incident arc, where sorcerers are taking on special grade curses and fights to the death. Now in this video, we're covering episodes 36 through 39, so if you have not seen these yet, spoiler warnings ahead. And without further ado, it's time to get unhinged. So we start off with Yuji and Megumi lifting one of the veils over Shibuya, which now allows other sorcerers to move freely throughout Shibuya. When suddenly Megumi starts to run as he notices Ino falling from the sky, and Yuji follows right behind as he catches Ino at the last second. And Buddy was not looking too good. And understandably so, because at the top of the building he just came from, this delusional old lady has unintentionally reincarnated the Grim Reaper himself, Toji Fushiguro. And this monster doesn't care if you're a baby, an animal, or a grandma. If you are a sorcerer, he will pack you up. And before Granny realized how badly she messed up, Toji teleports to her and smacks the prune juice out of her body. We then cut to Nobara and Nita, who's looking around for Ichichi, but unfortunately for them, they're intercepted by Haruta. And Nobara assumes that he's the one that took out Ichichi, so the two girls split up as Nita goes to look for him and Nobara stays to throw hands. So Nobara goes on the offensive as she attempts to apply pressure from close range, but unbeknownst to her, Haruta's curse tool is hawking Nita down until it catches up to her and slices both of her legs. And as soon as she hits the ground, Haruta chases her down with a smile on his face, and Nobara chases after him, but this man has already punted her in the stomach. And as Nobara rushes in, he catches his sword and attempts to slash her, but she narrowly dodges and launches nails at him, which he quickly deflects into the ceiling. But Nobara activates her ability, causing the ceiling to crumble on top of her opponent. And after she thinks her enemy is defeated, she turns to check on Nita, when she gets jawed by Haruta's curse tool, causing her to fall to the ground and drop her weapon. So now Haruta standing over them prepared to end their lives. But before he could kill them, Nobara attempts to stall. And I thought she might have did something, cause she was getting Buddy to yap. But mid-yap, he stabs Nita in the left cheek. And Nobara could do nothing but scream out because she was still dazed from the attack she just took. But regardless, she gets up to fight back, even though she's no match for her opponent. And as the two clash, they can hear glass break from the distance as they turn to see a pissed off Nanami. And Buddy did not come to play. With no word spoken, he takes off his tie, wraps it around his fist, and walks down Haruta. And Haruta is not taking this serious at all. He really thinks shit is sweet around here. But Nanami walks right into his grill as he asks him how many allies do you have and where are they located. And Haruta responds by slicing him across the chest and kicking him in his belly button, talking about a wall. Yes, a wall. Were you not aware that Nanami does 30,000 sit-ups a day? That man's core is made of straight steel. He just like me for real. But this just pisses off Nanami even more. But then Haruta starts giggling. So Nanami punches this man across the room into a display case. And before he could get away, Nanami grabs him by his ponytail and asks him the same question. Now me being the very intelligent man that I am, after getting punched across the room, I would have told him everything. I would have told him where my mama was if he asked me. But Haruta says that he doesn't know where they are. So Nanami punches this man in the stomach, putting a dent in the wall. But this man was not done. He grabs him by the neck and holds him up in the air as he asks him if he's the reason why some of his allies are dead. And this man gonna say, "I'm sorry." Bet that. Nanami lets him go and punches him in the face mid-air, sending him flying into a building on the opposite side of the street. And Nobara can do nothing but glaze that man, and I don't blame her one bit. And as they head out to find Nita, we cut to Mei Mei and her little brother Wee Wee, L name by the way, as the two of them bump into Gato. And as Mei Mei raises her weapon, this man Gato summons a smallpox deity. You mean to tell me she has to box smallpox? Oh no. What happened to throwing hands, slashing swords, talking it out? And funny enough, Gato just walks away as the deity puts Mei Mei and her little brother in a domain expansion. And she immediately just spawns in a coffin as the deity drops a fat ass boulder on her head. But she bursts through as they both prepare to get active. We then cut to Yuji, who's running through the subway, and as he makes it to a lower level, he runs into Choso, who's looking for vengeance. Now by the time Yuji touched the ground, he barely had any time to react, because as soon as Choso saw him, he activates Piercing Blood as he stabs Yuji right in the forearm. But luckily for Yuji, this man has potato aim, as Itadori outruns the rest of his attack and punches him, sending him sliding back. And this is when Choso asks about his brothers that Yuji packed up. Bro, we are not worried about them side characters. Run this fade. Now, as soon as Choso heard that his brothers went outside, he started to tweak out. And as he begins to power up, Yuji literally smacks his attack out of his hand. But Choso is not done as he continues his bloody assault. But Yuji's quick reflexes keep him from being completely dog-walked. But Choso still has the upper hand as he smacks Yuji, sending him sliding back. And that's the last thing Yuji wanted to happen, because as Choso prepares for another long-range attack, Yuji's aware that he's at a major disadvantage. So he intentionally jumps in the air so he can time Choso's attack. And the moment he touches the ground, Choso fires, which Yuji narrowly dodges as he charges at Choso to get back into close range. But this time, Choso was prepared as he activates Supernova as balls of blood explode around Yuji, causing him to lose balance. And Choso takes this chance to stab him in the foot, but this lunatic uses that same foot to kick him in the head, and he follows up with another kick, sending Choso flying back. But when he turns around, Choso is already locked and loaded, and now Choso sends Yuji sliding back and putting yet another hole in this man's body. But suddenly, Mekamaru calls out to Yuji via his communication device as he begins to give him intel on Choso's abilities. And as Yuji continues to hide, Mekamaru tells him to run to the restroom. And Yuji was a little reluctant at first, but considering he's about to get Swiss cheesed, he eventually complies. And by the time Choso catches up to him, the restroom is completely flooded with pipes bursting everywhere. And while Choso was distracted by Mekamaru, Yuji pops up from behind and punches him to the back of the restroom. And now back in the corner, Choso activates his curse technique, but thanks to all the water, his blood begins to splatter everywhere. So now without his external blood manipulation, his only option is to throw hands. And that's exactly what they do as both of them begin to go at it in close combat. And somehow Choso still has the upper hand, so with nothing else to lose, Yuji just bites him. And then he follows up with a nasty headbutt, temporarily disorienting Choso, which gives him just enough time to kick this man in the temple. But throughout their whole fight, Choso was hiding some coagulated blood from the water, and as soon as Yuji was distracted, he shoots it right through his liver. But this man stops himself from passing out and begins to power up because he knows no matter what, he cannot lose here. He has to defeat Choso here and now. But Choso begins to power up as well as they prepare to go at it once again. And in a split second, Choso strikes first as he begins to go on the offensive. But Yuji weaves and blocks most of his attacks until he falls for a feint and gets punched in the face. But he jumps back in as they continue to dodge each other's attacks until Choso catches his ankle and throws him into a stall as he follows up with more of his curse technique. But Yuji blocks it at the last second until the blood splatters in both of their faces. And Yuji uses this chance to kick this man through every stall in the bathroom. But as he runs him down, Choso retaliates. And Yuji damn near hit the splits to avoid decapitation. This just turned into Wolverine. But Yuji blocks his second attack as they begin to go at it again. And how these two were able to keep their balance in a flooded bathroom is beyond me. My ass would have been slipping and sliding everywhere. But Yuji runs through the stall, grabs the handle, and kicks through the door, sending Choso into concussion protocol. But then he wraps his legs around his head and launches him into another wall. But when Yuji goes in to finish the job, his punch does no damage. And then Choso takes a chunk out of his shoulder and sends him flying. And Buddy is barely breathing, so Choso walks him down to finish the job. But suddenly, he stops as he begins to walk away and lose his shit because memories he never had begin to flood his mind as he begins to imagine him and his brothers along with Yuji eating dinner together. But he breaks out of it as he continues to walk away. We then cut back to Mei fighting the smallpox deity as she's beginning to figure out how its domain works. If she gets trapped and buried in the coffin for 3 seconds, the virus takes full effect and she dies. So she decides to use her little brother as bait. But it's all good because he just agrees with it. I love my sister, but not that much. But anyways, Wee Wee releases his curse energy to draw aggro, and at the same time, Mei suppressed hers. And once the deity took the bait, Mei dashes in and cuts its arms off, as it screams in pain and runs away into the woods. But then it spins back for a sneak attack, but before it can attack Mei, she uses her curse technique to send a crow flying right through its body, killing the deity and ending its domain. And now they face off against Geto once more. But we cut to Nanami, Maki, and Nobito walking through the subway, where they encounter a cursed womb known as Dagon. And before Nanami can take it on, Nobito captures it using his curse technique and proceeds to punch it into a pillar. But Dagon gets mad thinking about all his friends that they killed and transforms into his cursed spirit form. And then he immediately begins to flood the subway. So the sorcerers begin to jump him as they attack him from different angles. And even though they're getting their attacks off, it's seemingly doing no damage. And to make things worse, Dagon creates a defensive water barrier, which leads the sorcerers to attack at the same time once again. But Dagon dodges their attacks and begins to levitate above them. But Nobito predicted this as he attacks Dagon from above, and he keeps applying that pressure, preventing Dagon from using his techniques. And Dagon is getting pissed, but Nobito's curse technique is just too much for him, as he keeps getting frozen in place and mollywopped left and right. But before they knew it, they got caught in his domain expansion. And then they got attacked by some Shikigami who didn't even exist until they got hit by them. How are you supposed to defend against that? I'll tell you how. Nobito's anti-domain technique, Secret Art, Falling Blossom Emotion, which counters an enemy's can't miss domain attack with their own cursed energy. And Dagon did not like that one bit, because he uses 70% of his power to attack Nobito with his Death Swarm technique, and he uses the other 30% on Nanami. That's 30%? Oh nah. Nanami gets swarmed by Shikigami, and so does Nobito, but his curse technique is temporarily defending him, until Dagon teleports in front of him and punches him through the back of the island. And before Nobito can reactivate his technique, Dagon teleports behind him, but Maki steps in to defend him. Never mind. Dagon roundhouse kicks her into a bunch of palm trees, and then uses his Death Swarm technique on Nobito. But Maki walks out of the foliage ready to run it back, and before Oswald can use his technique on her, Megumi bursts through the domain and gives Maki a new weapon. And as Dagon turns to attack Megumi, Maki smacks the shit out of him, and she follows that up by hitting him again, sending him flying into the ocean. Meanwhile, Megumi's deploying his own domain, causing him and Dagon to enter a spiritual tug-of-war. So Dagon attempts to remove him from the casting of the show, but Nanami literally leapfrogs over there and destroys one of the Shikigami, and the second one didn't stand a chance either. But suddenly, a freshly amputated Nobito and Maki attempt to attack Dagon at the same time. Meanwhile, Megumi tells Nanami that he's going to attempt to make a small hole in the domain so that they can all escape, and once Nanami understands the plan, he calls out to them as they run to him and Megumi. And Dagon's slow ass figured it out a tad bit too late. But the moment the hole opens, someone else enters. Toji Fushiguro. Now in this moment, no one is aware of who this man is. And why would they? Before today, he has been dead for over a decade. But the moment he steps in, he snatches Maki's weapon and begins to walk towards Dagon. And in this moment, Nobito finally realizes who's walking before him. The undead sorcerer murder machine, who now stands before Dagon ready to fight. And Dagon attacks first, but Toji counters by obliterating the Shikigami, parting the sea, and teleporting into Dagon's face and smacking the tentacles off this man's body. But it does not end there. Toji starts running on water and begins to beat an octopus in the ocean, eating Dagon in all types of ways. But Dagon counters back by shooting a bunch of piranha Shikigami at Toji. But Toji runs into them headfirst and smacks them out the way until he finally reaches Dagon, who traps him and his weapon and drags him underwater, where he is attacked by the entire food chain. But Toji bursts out of that and destroys Dagon's Shikigami once again. And the force of his power sent Dagon all the way back to the beach, where he continues to get walked down. And as he attempts to defend against Toji's attacks, it is not working. I mean, he's literally playing with this, whooping his ass with 3 sticks and stomping his face in from the air. Oh, and speaking of the sticks, this lunatic begins to sharpen them into blades. And not knowing what to do, Dagon attempts to levitate to buy himself some time. But Nobito jumps on his back and kicks him towards Toji, who pole vaults himself into the air and stabs Dagon right between the eyes. But somehow Dagon survives this, so Toji breaks the weapon off while it's still in his head and begins to beat him with it. And somebody needs to call PETA, because the way he beat the life out of this octopus is unethical. But hey, at least they escaped his domain. But on the other hand, their situation seems to have gotten a lot worse, because now Toji is walking towards them with a dagger in hand. When suddenly, Megumi ends up outside, standing face to face with his father. But back inside, Jogo appears out of nowhere.
Give a nigga is this nigga serious? Give a nigga wait. How much more can I take? Give a nigga a break.
And with no hesitation, he begins to attack, as she bursts Nanami into flames. And while watching him get attacked, he somehow gets behind Maki and bursts her into flames. How is he that fast? And now Nobito is the only one left, and as he uses his curse technique, Jogo incinerates every piece of hair on this man's body. And as he goes to push him down, he senses Sukuna's presence. And when he finally finds him, these 2 girls are feeding Yuji more fingers. But it wasn't enough to wake Sukuna, so Jogo feeds him 10 more. How is he unconscious and he's swallowing these demonic Vienna sausages? I don't know, not my throat. But anyways, as Jogo attempts to attack the two girls, he realizes that his arm has been cut off. And when he turns back, he's grabbing Sukuna with his filthy ass hands. So he immediately retreats as all three of them stand in fear. And as Sukuna walks towards them, he says how they all hold their heads quite high. And a second later, he slashes the air, which catches Jogo in the head because he didn't bow low enough. He then turns to the girls and asks them what they wanted, as they ask him to get rid of the imposter Geto. But when he tells them to raise their heads, he explodes one of their heads and cuts the other ones in half. And obviously I can't show that, but just know that man is a monster. And now he turns to Jogo and asks him what he wants. And he said he doesn't want a single thing. His only goal was to revive him. And in a strange turn of events, Sakuna offers him a reward. He tells Jogo that if he can land a single blow on him, that he will work under him for the time being. And he'll start off with killing everyone in Shibuya, except for one. And as Jogo gets up, he accepts his offer. Alright, so that's it for this part of the Shibuya arc. Now there's still a lot left to cover in this arc, so I'm sure we'll get back to it soon. But for now, let me know what y'all want to see in the comments below. And once again, I appreciate everybody for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's your boy Atlas, and I'll catch you next time.